my PhD was in stingrays. So when I first came to the Bahamas, it was to work for the Shark Research and Conservation Program. And in 2014, I established a batoid research group. So I spent 4 years studying stingrays and various elements of their ecology in the south of Eleuthera. And we're actually publishing the results of all those studies now. I think in the last 3 years, we've published 7 or 8 papers on the sort of ecological processes of 2 large sympatric species of stingray here, one of which I discovered, or, I didn't discover, but we identified it as an inhabitant of the Bahamas for the first time. So we were able to update its contemporary distribution in 2017. And a lot of my work revolves around this particular species, which is called the Atlantic Chupare stingray, or Styracura schmardae. So we've just had a paper that's actually being published tomorrow, and I got sent my copy of it today. That's an assessment of the diet between these 2 species. So we're kind of trying to understand if these animals live in the same environment, how do they survive without competition? But when I established the Centre for Ocean Research and Education in 2017, my research focus became all of a sudden very niche stingray and shark to very, very broad. So I would say that certainly these days, my contemporary research is all to do with coastal and nearshore ecosystems and their ecological processes. So I've been working with the Smithsonian Institution and Florida International University, assessing the resilience of seagrass ecosystems to climate change and herbivory pressure. I also work with a group from Wageningen University in the Netherlands, looking at green turtles in these same ecosystems. And we've done a bunch of interesting camera studies where we mount cameras to these turtles, and we look to see how human provisioning is impacting their behaviour. I've had a master's student looking at octopus in an isolated marine ecosystem, where all the animals that live in this, it's a saltwater lake about 8 miles from here. All the animals have evolved completely independently of their broader marine counterparts. So it's a great model system for understanding the evolution of behaviour. And we're also studying, we have a large shark project over in the Western Bahamas, and I'm leading all the shark work there in an assessment of the latest marine reserve in the Bahamas at a private island. I also study, we do a lot of seahorse work, and we're about to start a project looking at corals and obligate crabs. So really, at the moment, the organization has published 4 papers this year. One was on sharks, one was on octopus, one was on stingray genetics, and the one that's being published tomorrow is on stingray diet. We've just had another 2 papers accepted for publication. One is an assessment of nursery areas in stingrays and looking at repeated site fidelity for juveniles. And then we've just had our turtle study published as well. And what's really great about this, Dom, is when I first set core up, we did a lot of stingray stuff with these kids. And I remember this one Bahamian student, I think he was 12 years old, asked me what the difference between seagrass and algae was. And I didn't know. People just assume because you have a PhD, you know everything about marine science. And the reality is you don't. So I think that the experience of setting up this organization has allowed me to work with, I think we have now about 12 collaborators on such a broad variety of projects. I've learned so much. I feel that I have been a student of my own programs, really. So it's all about coastal ecology and how we can understand these processes and community dynamics in these very nearshore environments. And the reason for this is really because, that sort of coastal environment represents this sort of tenuous interface between the land and the water, And by its very nature, it's going to be more impacted through human activity, modification, degradation, development, urbanization. So it goes back to what we were saying earlier. How can we protect something if we don't understand it? So essentially, we're trying to create baseline data sets that assess the function of these ecosystems and the community dynamics of these ecosystems, so we can start building frameworks for their conservation and effective management. So it's a very broad sort of ecological brush that we're painting with at the moment, which is great because it means that we attract people from all over the world to come and do their research with us. We're not a shark lab. We're not a marine mammal organization. We are ecologists. And if you want to study, spiders in the terrestrial ecosystems here, we'll help you out. We'll be involved. So it's all about understanding these processes.
Yeah, it sounds like with such a broad field, you're really approaching the problem really well.
Yeah, we're really trying to establish ourselves as a multifaceted research institution. I found that through my previous career up to this point, it was all very much focused on sharks and rays. And in the Bahamas, sharks are protected, so it's a great natural system and a great population to study. But also marine science, people, there is a charismatic element, and I think that people want to study dolphins and turtles and sharks, but at the end of the day, these are all constituents of vast communities and mosaics of interconnected habitats that are all related to each other. They all influence one another, and they're all part of a holistic environment. So I felt up until this point, studying a very niche topic was rewarding and valuable. But now I find that having this broader brushstroke and approaching my science with a more holistic objective, we've seen great results in terms of trying to change policy and trying to communicate at government levels and other NGOs that sort of manage conservation in this country. And obviously through the work we do with Bahamians and Bahamian institutions, our voice collectively is being heard. And if you can, demonstrate that sort of connectivity is so integral to conservation approaches, then people listen.